You have to have an explosive move to get off the front. You can't just roll off the front. Guys are going to chase you down. You really have to make a big move. But look at the separation forming here. Anthony still going off the front, looking for some help, but getting none of it.
Michael Green trying to move forward, make it two Kelly Benefit Strategies riders up there. But you can see them. They hit these corners, and all of a sudden they go from being very, very aggressive, very much on the power, to being just a tinge tentative, as well they should be.
A little gap opening there. The lens of that camera distorts it. If you're watching this at home, the lens of that camera distorts that. It's hard to tell how big that gap is, but you can see a couple bike lengths is about all these riders are able to manage, and then it comes back together. It just continues to, well, now that gap looks a little promising.
Yeah, they've caught Justin and Anthony, and now you've got about 7 riders with about a 100-meter break, a gap back to the chasing field. So it's Bissell in control of things at the front. There are, well, this is an interesting moment, I think, Brad Soner, in this race, because you have 7 riders roughly off the front, and the field is not apparently that cohesive in their efforts to bring this thing back together. It looks like most of the teams represented at the front. A couple of Bissells, maybe 1 or 2 Kelly Benefits, a Jelly Belly rider, but we'll know here more definitively. But you can see they're all over the road, and just as we speak, a reconsolidation.
Yeah, with that one rider from United Healthcare just kind of closed that gap slowly and carefully, and now you can see they're all back together, and it was rider number 12, Brad White, who was that rider in blue, keeping that thing together. Brad White from Holland. Holland, Michigan, that is, for those of you watching on the internet, a local guy, riding for the United Healthcare team. Holland is a town just about 15 minutes down the road from where we're at. Got to remember that we have an audience watching from around the country, and when I say he's from Holland, then they know that the rules say that he has to be an American rider. No, Holland, Michigan, made up mostly of people from Holland. So yeah, the course is starting to dry out, Brad. All the way around the course, we're losing those pockets of standing water, and it's becoming a safer course all around with 15 laps to go. This could be a heck of a finish.
Yeah, here on the start-finish stretch, the only wet parts on the course are just past the manhole covers, where some water was pooling on top of the manhole covers. The riders obviously taking that water with them as they roll over those covers. But other than that, we are pretty much dry here on the start-finish stretch, and I would imagine the backside of the course going to have similar conditions.
Well, we still have a pretty good sheen out there, and obviously the paint on the road, all that stuff is very, very slick. But these guys are starting to figure out exactly what sort of pace that they can carry into these very, very technical corners at speed. And we have not seen a crash now for the better part of the last 7 or 8 laps as they head towards home with 14 laps remaining here. This is the Herman Miller Grand Cycling Classic USA National Criterium Championship. Andy Jacquemin at the front.
Jacquemin constantly looking here at Omer Kem, his team director. Every time Andy Jacquemin has rolled past the Shimano neutral support pit, he's always looking for some direction, always watching Kem, looking for a little bit of strategy. Kem will give it when Andy Jacquemin needs that information.
Yeah, there is one corner back there that is particularly wet. It's on pavement, not bricks. And it is still some standing water, but the rest of the majority of the course is now drying up, and it's almost at its best when it's just a little, right after a grain, right after drying off, the course is nice and sticky in many ways.
Really a perfect afternoon for racing other than the deluge in the middle of our race. It's nice, cool. It's a little bit humid, but cloud cover, certainly now at race pace, these guys are not heating up too awful much and not dehydrating, not having to go to water bottles, certainly with a restart of 30 laps. So we're well past the midway point of our restart. Remember, we gave them instructions at the beginning of the day that would be 80 kilometers or 73 total laps. And it's going to be somewhere right in that neighborhood, plus a little bit, I'd say now.
Well, we're all back together here on the start-finish stretch as riders rolling to the line. There goes a move off the front. These guys launching attack after attack. We'll see who this is. It's going to be Kelly Benefit Strategies. It's Daniel Holloway. Holloway tries to get a move going, but takes a look back, says not quick enough. Didn't get clear of the field. Holloway says, I'll sit up, wait for another opportunity.
Daniel Holloway is one of those riders that has got some track racing experience. And the king of the Criterium, the defending champion in the national champion in the Criterium, looked like he was sprinting for a preem. We rang no bell, but it looked like he was more going for a preem just to see who was going to spring out there with him. Nobody went with him. He looks like he's gone again. Somebody from his team has. Hard to see who it is on this monitor. Looks over his shoulder to see if he has a gap. Of course, he has no gap, as it's almost impossible to get a gap on this course. Single file they go. Riders marking each other. 13 laps remaining.
Yeah, Jamie, let's talk about marking other riders in a situation like this, because that is going to be very important to these riders as we get down towards the end of the bike race here. What riders are doing is basically watching their competitors out on course. They're picking their favorites in this race. You look at someone like Jake Keogh, who's been doing incredibly well this season. Well, if you can follow Jake Keogh, there's a good chance that you're going to be near the front of the bike race when it gets down to the end. Look at this separation happening, though. A major, major break in the field.
Yeah, it looks like the front half of the back part of the race sat up, and now all these riders are trying to struggle out from behind it and trying to close that gap in short order. If you fall asleep at the wheel, let that gap open up. That gap can grow before you're able to close it. They had to shut that down quick.
That could also be indicative of some sort of an incident that occurred out there, just a little bit of a touch of the brakes, and all of a sudden you create that separation, as we are inside now of 13 laps remaining, and it is going to be imperative that that group comes all back together. So many of the favorites still caught out in that second bunch.
Well, yeah, what was a minor gap as they rolled through here could turn into a major problem for some of these teams if they don't start to shut it down. Didn't see a whole lot of cooperation on the front of that group that was falling off the back. A lot of guys looking around saying, who's going to chase it down? But it looks like they have brought it all back together on the back side of the course, as we are Grupo Compacto once again.
I don't know if I'd call a big old single file line of about 35 guys Grupo Compacto, but it is they are all together, no doubt about that, and starting to be very, very aggressive as we are into about the final 15 minutes of our Criterium here in Grand Rapids on the bricks and coming to us.
Wow, you weren't kidding. Single file front to back there as we see him come around the final turn here towards the line. This looks like Canada 5-Hour Energy presented by Gear Grinder on the front. Actually opening up some time here. That's pretty impressive, as that's Pat Lemieux. And that might have been Mike Creed. Or no, that was Colton Barrett, the other KBS Optum Health rider trying to chase down Lemieux.
I'm liking what I'm seeing out of the Canada Pro riders by Gear Grinder. A couple of them there at the very front. Last time through, that was Rob Sweeting, who is putting the hammer down or ratcheting up that big ring as they are underway now. Coming up on 10 to go. That's actually going to be 11 to go the next time we see them around. And look at this, we're starting to get a crowd back here. We are loving it, Grand Rapids. Thanks for sticking around.
All right, Brad, now quick question for you. How do you win on a course like this? How do you get your team around you? How do you set up your sprinter to win on a course like this? With 11 laps to go, you got to start thinking about that final sprint. And it's a wide open course back there with just the turn from turn number 5 to turn number 6 is one big arc. How do you set up your sprinter?
Well, right now we're going to be seeing the team starting to come together. You'll watch all those similar jerseys start to group together, and what they're doing is trying to deliver their rider to the front. The first thing you have to do is get them there. You bring them up. You get them through the field. You make sure they're in a good position, and that means being on the front. That's the best place to be because it's the safest place in a situation like this. But at the same time, when you've got guys launching attacks off the front like we're seeing right now, well, that throws a wrench in your plans, and then the guys have to go to the front to try and chase these down. Kelly Benefit setting someone off here as everyone else trying to respond, but look at the field, not getting much help.
10 to go, riders, 10 laps to go. That was Andrew Bajadali, a great all-arounder for Kelly Benefit Strategies. He's on the attack with 10 laps to go. We are 30 minutes into our restart. We are down to 10 laps to go. What an amazing day out here. Epic Criterium racing conditions as we are at 30 minutes and 10 to go.
Yeah, so if it does come down to a field sprint here, if no one gets away, let's talk about the strategy for these teams, because teamwork is going to be very important in a situation like this. We'll be watching for what's called the lead out. You'll see all the teams line up, single file, trying to get as many guys in a row as they can. And this all goes back to drafting. Just like the cars draft off each other in NASCAR to save fuel, these guys do the same thing to try and save energy. So the team goes to the front. Their designated sprinter sits on the back of that line. All those guys in front, their job is to just deliver the sprinter to the line. And they'll take that rider to about 75 meters before they drop him off. These guys will go all out. The team members will sacrifice themselves, empty the tank for their sprinter behind them. They're just trying to keep the pace high. And ideally, the final guy peels off right around 75 meters, and then it's all sprinting action from there.
Yeah, but today we had the element with these conditions of wet, slippery track out there. There are really only two lines around these corners. There's the safe line and the fast line. The fast line is not always the safe line. That is Frank Pivot, the follower, again, 9 laps to go with the National Championship up for grabs. 9 to go, Grand Rapids, 9 to go.
Chad Hartley coming into the Shimano pit here as he's going to get a new front wheel. He just squeezed inside of the free lap window. Remember, no free laps at 7 laps to go. Hartley will jump back into this race.
Yeah, his timing is spot on, as he now has one up. And it's when the front wheel of the pack crosses that line, no more free laps. You can't, it's done, it's over. The pit is still active. You can go into the pit area, get your bike fixed, but you have to make up the time on your own. Some people make the mistake of saying the pit is closed. No, the pit is even more on high alert, as anything that happens in those last 7 laps becomes more critical if perchance a rider can get in there, get the bike fixed, and make up the time. I've seen it happen once. Alexi Graywall in Kansas City in 1989 did that. I've never seen anybody else do that.
You just dated yourself.
I read about it in a magazine. Today's winner will receive a certificate redeemable. He was not. 89.
Did you see that race, Brad? 1989. Were you there for that?
I'm trying to remember what I was doing in 1989.
Nursing. Feel better and work better with the Envelope Desk and Embody Chair. Compliments of Herman Miller. The Envelope Desk and Embody Chair work together for better health and comfort. All talking about the ergonomics. The winner gets one of those.
Oh, Bissell at the front.
Got Mike Green trying to make a fly on the right side of the road. This is when things get a little bit dicey, Brad.
Yeah, these guys got to squeeze into the corner as we're watching there. They navigate 2 lines. Looks like everyone going to make it safely through. That's an interesting dynamic when you're on course putting in a big attack and you look next to you and see some guy flying by. That's tough to handle, but those riders are headed into the first turn there. 2 lines, but they did make it through safely.
Yeah, they were 3 abreast going through a couple of these corners, so that tells me one thing, and that is that the course has gotten a little bit drier here in the last 15 or 20 minutes. There are still standing water, but now these guys are getting a little bit more comfortable. They know exactly how many miles an hour they can carry into a corner, exactly. Do they have to sit up? Do they have to touch their brakes, or can we just stay on the gas and roll through it? So your current leader out on courses still Andy Jacques Maines, riding for Team Bissell out of Northern California. They are all here contesting the Criterium National Championship. Bissell with 9 riders. Kelly Benefit, I think you counted 12 or 13 riders in our field. Kenda Pro Cycling has got, presented by Gear Grinder, has got 7 riders in our field. What an amazing, amazing showdown this is going to be as we are inside of 10. We're coming up on 7 to go.
Well, before our rain delay, it was a battle of the teams as we saw Kelly Benefit Strategies Optum Health duking it out with Bissell Pro Cycling, and that situation unfolding once again. Here's 2 Kelly Benefits riders. That's Dan Holloway again on the front.
No more free laps, gentlemen. No more free laps. We're 7 laps to go. No more free laps. Need to make sure the riders know that. No more free laps. All right. Yeah, Kelly Benefits on the front. Bissell right there. The green and white, the blue, the red and white of those 2 teams has been all over the front of this race today. But I still say there's some players in this race that have not shown their face that can certainly come out in the last lap or 2 and possibly across the finish line. The odds are, again, no, it's just a blockade of almost 6 or 7 riders from Kelly Benefits right there at the front of the field as they go into one rider down. One rider sliding, and everybody stuck behind.
The whole field is on their brakes. Only 1 or 2 went down, but this is going to form some major gaps in our field, and it is one of the KBS rider who's getting up 2 Kelly Benefit Strategy riders on the deck out there.
And they were in 3rd and 4th position, and they slid. Yeah, 3 of them.
So we saw that mass...
and now there's 2 of them off the front by themselves with about a half a block.